Good evening, and welcome to the February, oh, no, that's not it. That's not the one I wanted.
No, April. She changed it.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome to the April 8th hearing of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. At this point in time, I'd like to ask anybody, if you have electronic devices, phones and such, either shut them off or silence them. During the hearing, we're going to have a presentation at the beginning of the hearing, and then after that, when the other business continues, we encourage people to come up and talk. What we'd like you to do is just announce who you are for the record keeper, and, you know, after you're recognized by the chair, and then we can go on and take any comments. So tonight, beginning, we have minutes on the agenda, and I don't know if any of those came through. I have
The
not-
4th, you do not have.
Right.
25th, you should. If not, we can get those for you. The
I-
4th, you will not have until Susan can transcribe it.
I haven't seen the 25th, I don't
Okay.
believe.
So we're gonna
Okay.
push right past the minutes. And that brings us to other business, an update by Water Quality Management Committee. Good evening.
Hello, Chairman, Conservation Commission. My name is Sia Karplus. I'm the Water Quality Technical Consultant for the Water Quality Management Committee in the DPW. And tonight we are here to give you the annual update on the Little Pond Shellfish Demonstration Project. It's great to be here. It reminds us that the growing season is not far behind, which is really terrific. Maybe I'll just start by saying the Division of Marine and Environmental Services has done a really great job taking over the day-to-day operations of this project and is looking in the future to have this be under their auspices. So I wanted to highlight them. The Water Quality Committee and the DPW and SMAST are supporting roles in the monitoring and the funding at this point. So with that, as a brief background, as we all know, many years ago now, in 2011, town meeting voted an appropriation, $2.7 million, to look at sewering a part of town and alternatives as part of looking at making wastewater planning more affordable. And this measure was approved by a 2-to-1 margin in all precincts. And 3 years later, the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan was given a certificate of adequacy by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. That was a watershed event, and what it said was they approved the Little Pond Sewer Service Area project that's now moving forward, and they gave us 5 years to evaluate these alternatives in other areas. And this is our list, just so that everybody remembers. We're looking at shellfish, we're looking at permeable reactive barriers, we're looking at the Bournes Pond Inlet Widening Project. We're looking at denitrifying, or otherwise known as innovative alternative septic systems that remove more nitrogen than a standard Title V. We're looking at stormwater or road runoff. And as we all know, we've been looking at eco-toilets, which are composting and urine diverting toilets. And we're making great progress in all of those areas, which, you know, looking back from 2011, it seemed like a pretty big mountain, but, you know, step by step, we're getting up that mountain. And so the oyster project is really what I'm going to focus on today. To remind you, there's Narragansett Street. This is Little Pond. This is Narragansett Street here, and it's a 2-acre growing area that was approved by you. And this emergency area, in case salinity got so low as to be dangerous for the viability of the oysters. So in case we had, you know, extensive rain, we do have this area. We have not used it, but it's there. And this just gives you an aerial of what Little Pond looks like and all the development around it. Why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because oysters and shellfish in general uptake nitrogen. They take it up by filtering the water and taking up the phytoplankton primarily, but there have been a number of different studies that show the kinds of numbers, that the mass of nitrogen that can be uptaken. And it really depends on the density of the growing. So if you're growing in bags, you don't get as much. You get maybe 60 to 90 kilograms per acre. when the oyster gets to be full size. If you can stack the bags in sort of these things called oyster condos, where you've got bag on top of bag, or if you have different configurations of baskets, you can get more, maybe 3 times more, maybe 4 times more. You can also bottom plant, which is what we do in our project in the second year, which lets you get, in the hundreds of kilograms per acre as opposed to the tens, sort of an order of magnitude more. And then if you put in reefs, you may even get more than that, depending on how 3-dimensional the reefs grow. So this work has been done. The Barnstable County Cooperative Extensions has done some extensive studies. Chesapeake Bay, looking in different areas, Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences, and other places on the Cape, and here in Falmouth, we've all started to look at what can you know about oyster nitrogen uptake. And so this project is looking at validating and confirming or refuting some of these findings from other places. And so our project goals are to install a quantity of oysters that you can detect a change, to monitor and measure over a 3-year demonstration project, measure the nitrogen uptake in the actual shellfish themselves, not just the water, but the water and the shellfish, make sure that we are doing no harm, because that is our motto, to do no harm to the actual resource of Little Pond in the process, to find out the public acceptance, a butter reactions to growing in this manner, and to understand implementation logistics, like making sure your floats get out of the water before the freeze. So that's why we're doing this project, to live it, to do it. It's easy to talk about planning, things look great on paper, but when you put them into the real world, you start to learn. And that's why we're doing this project. And so this is just an overview of what we did in June 2014. We bought 1.5 million shellfish, oysters, and we put them in an upweller. 3 weeks later, they went out into Little Pond. There's a step where we have to actually test them for Division of Marine Fisheries for any diseases. You can't relay from one water body into another if the oysters have a disease, so we do those tests. DMF comes and witnesses those tests, clears them, had a clean bill of health, so we went from June to July from Falmouth Harbor, where the upweller is. You can see the picture there. Hope you guys have all gone down there and seen it. It's a wonderful facility that Chuck Martinson and the inmates built, and it works fabulously for the oysters. The oysters grow really well in this upweller system in Falmouth Harbor. There's plenty of nutrients, apparently, for the babies. So we put them in, we took them out, and then again we have to do a test with Division of Marine Fisheries, and they approved, after we got a clean bill of health again, a relay to West Falmouth Harbor, Green Pond, and Quissit. And as you can see from the pictures, that's sort of how the process goes. Snow on the ground at relay always. I also wanted to point out that we had done this before. We did the same protocol where we grew them in an upweller in Falmouth Harbor, brought them into Little Pond for that first year of growing, and relayed into other water bodies previously in 2013. And we had reported the nutrient data to you last year. But what I wanted to say is that we had a very successful harvest of those relayed oysters this year. So we had, in November of 2013, put them in West Falmouth and Green Pond, and they were about 3/4 of an inch at relay, which is small. Yeah, I mean, not an inch, inch and a half, but big enough where we had 90% survival. We did a population study, and in October 4th, we had opening day in West Falmouth, and here are just pictures worth 1,000 words. That was an oyster. This is my hand. It was over 3 inches. They looked like this. They were absolutely beautiful. And here's a picture of the landing, commercial landing. Here's a picture of people and residential residents coming out and enjoying, some for the first time in their life, actually harvesting shellfish. And these are the commercial guys. I mean, there were dozens of them out there. So from a commercial perspective and a neighborhood perspective, town perspective, the West Falmouth relay was a really great success. And the same happened in Green Pond. In fact, I was in a fish market in Falmouth earlier this week, and there were Green Pond oysters for sale. Mm-hmm. So that was really exciting. So and they're popular apparently, because I asked them, I said, so how do these sell? And they say, people come in, they see Green Pond, and they're thrilled. So we had a great experience with that second year with the relay. So I wanted to show you specifically where the relay locations are for this year. Again, in Green Pond. Last year, so the Green Pond oysters that you can buy in Falmouth come from this side. This year, we relayed onto the other side. And here's a nice aerial courtesy of Maine Imaging. So they were here, and now they're going to be up in here. And they've been planted, and so they're waiting for harvest in October after the summer's over. We are going into West Falmouth again. Last year, they were here, and this year they're near the bridge. And these are all Division of Marine Fisheries approved locations. So we had to, of course, get permitting through Division of Marine Fisheries. And again, Abbott's Point, which is here, which is a commercial boat area. Again, about the same amount. And we did something different. Last year, it was just Green and West Falmouth. This year, we put some in Quistit Harbor. And we put them in the, where's my little pointer here? I guess I lost my pointer. Anyway, as you can see from the line, it's between the Harbor House dock and the town landing towards the shore. So we put about 300,000 oysters there. Matt and I checked them a couple of days ago, and there seemed to be many that have survived. So at first we had looked at them when it was still frozen, and we were a little concerned, but there seemed to be plenty for harvest. I mean, there may be predation in the summer, but they didn't all die in the winter. So that's where we put them. And now I'm going to sort of jump right into what did we find from the monitoring in Little Pond last year. We did two kinds of monitoring. We did Massachusetts Estuaries Project style monitoring, and we did some additional monitoring based on feedback that we got from you during the notice of intent hearing. This year, we put in a lot more. I'm going to hate not having a pointer, but anyway. We had, as you can see, we have really high-density spatial sampling going on in Little Pond. It's very high fidelity. And what that allows us to do is have a very fine gradient of samples. So if you go from the head, you can see LP1, LP1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2, 2.1A, which was a recommendation from last year that was implemented. We added an additional station right below where the oyster reef, where the rafts are, so we can see what happens right outside where the oysters are growing. And then again, all the way to the inlet. So we got to have a lot of data points. And we collected a lot of data for those data points, 257 samples that were collected and analyzed and graphed and assessed. So we have the usual suspects, total nitrogen, and what's important for us when we're looking at this oyster project, we learned it from our first year of monitoring, understanding the fractions, the dissolved organic fraction versus the inorganic fraction, because that starts to tell us about the chlorophyll that's being uptaken in the phytoplankton versus the nitrate. And oysters don't take up nitrate, they take up phytoplankton. So it's important to know how much of that is in the water. So we don't just take total nitrogen, we have the different fractions. And then temperature and chlorophyll and salinity and dissolved oxygen, because that's important to the overall ecological health of the system, and transparency, which I'm going to go briefly through right now. I think the story, if I'm commentating the game here, the overall story is that the data from 2014 mirrors the data from 2013. In terms of the absolute numbers, there are some differences, but in terms of the trends are the same. So again, we see in 2014, just like 2013, there's a salinity gradient, and it's pretty pronounced. It was a bigger absolute number in 2014, but in both cases, you can see, starting at the head, you can't, oh, there we go. I came back, I think, briefly. Okay, so starting at the head, which is the top of Little Pond, you see a big salinity gradient, and it gets smaller and smaller until you get to the inlet, which makes sense. So that gradient has an effect, that stratification has an effect on the overall functioning of this system, especially with respect to dissolved oxygen. So the salinity gradient and the stratification is still evident from both years of data. The dissolved oxygen, which I thought was very interesting, also shows that it's system-wide. It's not something that just happens around where the oysters are or outside of the oysters. The dissolved oxygen, it goes anoxic periodically throughout the system, and it did before we put the oysters in. In fact, the MEP report that was done looked at data, 10 years before 2012, and there was throughout, it's a eutrophic system, you have these excursions. But what I thought was interesting is that 6 is considered acceptable, like the 6 milligrams per liter. And in 2014, in the oyster area, we're well above 6. So I drew that red line, I drew in that red line so you could see where the threshold concentration is, and that in the surface of the system, we're there. Where here, we were a little bit off here where the oysters are. So we definitely do not see a reduction in dissolved oxygen being caused by the oysters. I wouldn't go so far as to say they're fixing the problem, but I'm saying they're not causing a problem. You don't see it. So that's sort of the story of dissolved oxygen. You can also, again, see the stratification, which is a phenomenon of the system, has nothing to do with the oysters. It's system-wide. And then we've got total nitrogen. And so without getting into the dons and the dins and the ponds, which are the dissolved fractions and the thises and that, I wanted to sort of say that the trends are similar. You've got a decrease in total nitrogen going through the oyster beds. You can see it here, you can see it here, and you can see the chlorophyll doing the same thing here and here. And this was to try to keep the numerical values, thank you, consistent. The absolute values are different, but the trend, as you can see, is the same. And what I want to point out is that if you go through, if you take this decrease here, let me get this right, here and here in total nitrogen, what you see is that there was a 0.22 milligram per liter decline in 2014 and a 0.18 milligram per liter decline in total nitrogen in 2013. So in both years, there was a measurable decrease in the amount of total nitrogen from the top, from right before where the oysters are growing through the oyster bed. So there's a localized effect. And that's what I think this data shows pretty clearly. On to turbidity, similar story. If you look at this point, and this point, which are outside the oysters, and then down at the inlet, you see this gradual sort of trend in clarity. However, right in this one, although right in here, in both years, what you see is an increase in clarity. This is a turbidity, so this is a decrease in turbidity or an increase in clarity right where the oysters are. So you've got a trend that's heading down, but it's punctuated in the oysters because LP2, this station here, is in the oyster bed, a decrease from a trend of increasing clarity. The water gets more clear as you head toward the inlet because it's farther away from the head, which is where all the eutrophication is. But it's better in where the oysters are. And it makes complete sense because the oysters are filtering the chlorophyll, the phytoplankton. And the phytoplankton are what is making the water cloudy. So this is sort of data that shows what we would expect. And so that's comforting. And then finally, this year, for the first time, SMAS put a lot of effort into doing a denitrification study and trying to understand what's happening with the feces and the pseudofeces vis-a-vis denitrification in the benthos. So you've got this muck in the bottom of a little pond. And the idea is there any denitrification? That is, are there microbes in there that are able to oxygenate the nitrate or the ammonia, or oxidate the ammonia, create nitrate, and then denitrify it anaerobically and gas it out? And what we found here, which I think is very worth noting and worth pursuing in terms of doing more science, is that here, where the oysters are, the flux, the denitrification, is about 3 times what it is, maybe 4, 3.5, what it is 54 meters away, and there's none happening 100 meters away. So there seems to be, at least from this 1 year of data, an increase in denitrification happening at the oyster site. So what does all this mean? I think in summary, the total nitrogen in Little Pond was not changed because of our 1.5 million oysters that got to be about an inch high. So the actual mass that's going in there is thousands of kilograms, and that's why sewering is the right thing to do there. You saw the pictures. It's such a densely developed area. A few oysters aren't going to get at that from a mass balance perspective. However, from a localized perspective, we definitely saw that the deployment of the oysters have a localized improvement. They clear up the water, they take up nitrogen where they are. That nitrogen is in the form of phytoplankton because it follows the chlorophyll, and there is a low dissolved oxygen phenomenon throughout the estuary system that does not get worse where the oysters are. So we have such high fidelity data, we can say that that dissolved oxygen excursion is not happening where the oysters are, it's happening everywhere. And I think last but not least, we want to emphasize we don't think that the SMATS has concluded that there's not a negative effect because of the oysters, and denitrification seems to be occurring at the oyster site. Just want to briefly tell you what we're planning for next year, which is to grow 2 million oysters in Little Pond, same system. We also are hoping to monitor those oysters in Quissit because they will be bigger. They will go from the first year of growth to the second year of growth, and it is likely because of the uptake that we may actually be able to see water quality changes at the Sentinel station because we put 300,000 of them in there. If enough of them survive, we're hoping to really be able to see what the grown-ups can do for water quality as opposed to just the youngins. And the other thing we're hoping to do is to look in the future to optimize the relay locations to really get the most bang for the buck. We're doing a great job growing oysters for the first year in Little Pond. We want to make sure that we're putting them in the best places to clean up our water bodies. So we're going to be looking at that. And lastly, I think given the encouraging and interesting results from that first denitrification, we want to continue to do that next year to see if we can confirm what we saw that first year. And with that, I'm done. Do you have any questions through the chair?
I'm going to open it up to the board, and starting with Jen, did you have any input on this? Please.
You just said that you're going to be looking at future sites, and the question that came to mind as you were going through your conclusions is where or what sites do we have in Falmouth where the localized results that you seem to be getting would be significant enough at a scale of operation that can be used given the competing uses we have for boating and other forms of recreation?
Sure, that's a great question. We need to look at that, honestly. It's something we need to have sort of a site selection matrix and think about it. Quissit was a good start. Mm-hmm. West Falmouth, Green Pond, and Quissit have worked, and they're put in areas where there isn't competition, so those are areas that we're looking at, and I think we need to look in all of our estuaries with sort of a systematic criteria to be able to bottom plant them. Fortunately, cohogs and oysters can coexist. I think that's a very important, if you bottom plant, in other words, broadcast them on good bottom, sandy bottom, and you got cohogs underneath, they will coexist, they will grow just fine, and that we saw that in Green Pond. The cohog harvest was fabulous in the same area where the oysters were. So, but again, we want to make sure that we're looking at all those things, and Quissit's a good example of that, where we really had to be careful about where we were putting them, so we didn't interfere with all the recreational activity there.
I guess I'm kind of fixated on the idea of the scale that's necessary.
That's okay, the
And
scale.
the area over which you can achieve results that are significant enough to, maybe obviate the need for some other form of mitigation over the same area.
I think there are two parts to that, to answering that question. The first one is a nitrogen number calculation. So you'd want to say if 1 million oysters can be bottom planted on an acre, and 1 million oysters remove about 260 kilograms of nitrogen, you want to find estuaries where you're in the hundreds of kilograms that need to be removed to have this water quality change. So to have the nitrogen concentration at the Sentinel station go down. So that's sort of the regulatory answer to that question is, look at places on the West Coast that don't have, or Quissit. So Quissit needs, 300 kilograms removed by the numbers to get to the total maximum daily load concentration at the Sentinel station. So you can probably get in an acre and a half that many, and if they'll grow, you might be able to see that difference, which is why we looked at Quissit this year. There are other estuaries on our West Coast, starting up north, that have those kinds of numbers. The other answer, though, has to do with the other findings, the denitrification, the water clarity improvement, and the fact that what's being taken up is phytoplankton. And so I think we are still exploring the ecosystem's benefit of planting oysters that may not be reflected in a straight one-to-one kilograms of nitrogen out versus what the Sentinel station needs. And I think that's also going to be something we're looking at in Quissit, because maybe we need to remove 300 kilograms. Maybe we put in enough oysters to remove 100 kilograms. But if the water gets clear and the denitrification is starting to let the sediment start to denitrify and the muck starts to go away, you've done something more than just the nitrogen number.
Right.
So those are the two that we're trying to understand.
Thank you.
See, how thick is that muck on the bottom of the little pond? I know that as a kid, I remember walking in that pond,
Feet,
and it was,
like 3 feet.
yeah, it's that deep.
We keep
now.
our oysters at the top.
I wasn't involved in the original orders. The monitoring program, how long is that for?
It's for 3 years.
3 years, and we're in the second year of it now?
I've just debriefed you on the second year results. We got 1 more year.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious, does it need to continue? The monitoring end of it? It seems like the numbers were almost, I can see a trend, but a lot of the numbers were pretty close.
Okay.
So,
I think we're going to do 1 more year.
1 more year?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's see what we get.
Okay.
This year. Yep, this coming summer.
Okay.
This will be our 3rd year.
I have a question, but earlier in your presentation, you said that MES is going to take this project over, so you're not going to remove the cages after 3 years? You have a 3-year permit for a 3-year
Yep.
demonstration project, but at the beginning of your presentation, you said that MES wanted to take it over. I think that's how something like that.
Well, they're
So
taking
what's
over. They're taking over the
future of this
management.
project?
I think that is something that is up for discussion.
Okay.
But next year.
Okay.
We're still in our demonstration. I don't think we've thought.
Yep. Mike.
Excuse me. What question should I ask you?
How good did those oysters taste?
That's one gone. Darn.
Okay. I got one
What should
shot.
what should you ask me? Oh, I'll think of something.
Oh, good.
You're good?
Thank you.
I was scribbling along here. First off, I'd like to thank all those involved. It's a very nice presentation. You do that very well. I said it before, we're going back to the Red Sox, when the announcers are seamless and they go in. When you have this much information, and there's no ums and ahs, and you're able to just darn it, that pointer's not working because I want to show you that. You know, that shows that your intent is there, as this project is. Keeping simple words, thank you for muck. Muck is a good word. You know, it's underused. The science stuff is compelling. From what I take, it's not hurting, and the system does recover, even through these little events that happen, and it's system-wide. And you've been small steps up a big mountain. Again, nice analogy. What I took, some of the most pleasurable parts of this presentation, was the harvest, as is, I think that's a nice way to involve community and pass on knowledge. That I am grateful for. When people do stop and see, it starts with small steps, and you can be involved in this. You can volunteer with it. There's many different facets to making this a stronger. It may not be something that eventually will cure everything, but it certainly didn't hurt having smiles and seeing people out there fishing and all the other activities involved. Although it is a lot of hard work as well. These things are, the data collected, again, some of it just slightly over the top of my head. But you did explain it well. I have a grasp of it, and it was a very good presentation, and I am grateful for that.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, comments, I would like to, again, say to one and all, thank you for all this information. I look forward to next year's, and if this does take a different direction, I'm sure that we'll be included in any and all of the discussions.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sid.
I'm gonna grab my thumb drive, turn this off,
So as we're going down the agenda, we're going to go on to continued requests for determination of applicability. This is the lesser of two permits. A negative determination is what you want to hear. Staff goes out and reviews the project with the applicant, and they give us the determination, their recommendation for anyways, you want to hear negative. Negative is good in this case. First is 7 Pine Bank Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove a 4-foot by 6-foot concrete landing and replace with an 8-foot by 12-foot deck to install and maintain native mitigation plantings to remove and dispose of the existing septic system and replace with a new Title V sewage disposal system and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting continuance until April 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have Russell's motion, Mary's second. Any further discussion on the board? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Mr.
Next.
Chairman, can we take a slight break for a second?
Certainly,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Next, we have 38 Mares Pond Drive, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, remove an existing deck and hot tub, remove a different deck and balcony, and rebuild within the same footprint.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the bylaw and -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed, and recommending that the unpermitted dock be removed unless otherwise they can prove that it's been properly permitted.
That's not in here,
What?
about the dock.
Yeah, it is.
What? Mayor's Pond? Revised staff report, April 3rd, 15th.
Okay, I got it now.
On the
Yep.
flip side,
Got it. So moved.
do we have a second?
I'm lost here for a second. existing deck.
Got it.
Second.
Okay.
There you go, all right.
Russell's motion, Mike's second. Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. I met with your agent on a couple of occasions, and I met with your administrator very early on before we applied, and we talked about the fact that there was no records of any permits for the dock, but we were applying to fix a failed septic system and take out an old hot tub and fix a deck. I then met with the agent on a couple of occasions afterwards, and in fact, this is a continued RDA because we sorted out some things and gave him some more information, and the last thing I knew, he was fine with the application. This is the first I really officially saw it in a decision that you were going to get a recommendation through an RDA to remove a unpermitted dock. We have since I discovered that was going to be in here, made some inquiries. The property owner is very much aware that the dock was unpermitted because I told her that she needed to get a Chapter 91 license. She's a second owner. She didn't put the dock in. And I very early on asked her about permits or any record she had for the dock. She's aware of her requirements to permit the dock. We've done a little research. In fact, I have an email, if you want it, for your file from the previous owner that kind of gives the vintage of the dock being 1976. The current owner intends to work through a process to properly license the dock, but I didn't think that it was appropriate for it to be in the recommendations for the septic system upgrade. So I have this email. She intends to proceed and work on the process to get the dock permitted, and when she does, she'll have to come back to you. If she wants to get a Chapter 91 license because she needs at least a negative determination from you, if not something more, and we would be proving to you at that point that it was grandfathered. If we couldn't prove it to you, you could then tell them that they had to move it or remove it. I don't know that you can do it in an RDA for a septic upgrade for a failed septic. I think if you were going to require them to remove it, you'd have to issue an enforcement order.
Well, it's more than a septic upgrade. You're asking to replace decks and everything too, Mike, correct?
Yeah, we're
Correct?
asking, Mr. Chairman, if I could answer through
Yes.
you. We're asking to repair, replace old safety, old decks that have safety issues, not new decks. Just trying to fix the old decks.
Mike, is the dock in right now? I didn't go out to the site.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's always in.
Oh, yeah, there's a picture of it. Okay.
So all
Up to the board.
we're saying is we're working on it, and I don't know that it seems kind of aggressive to do it in an RDA.
So Mike, the existing deck's 8 by 12? And you're just replacing it in the same footprint and,
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the dimensions, but we are
That's what-
absolutely replacing it in the same footprint.
so it's the same size exactly?
Yep.
And then the concrete landing, I haven't been down, I haven't seen this because it was coming as an RDA. I was just curious, what is the concrete landing for?
I'm not sure where you're referring to.
This is.
I'm on the wrong one again.
Yep, sorry about that.
Look at the shed.
I'm on the wrong one. Sorry about that, Mike.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me get,
Mike, can you do me a favor next time? Like, I know you submitted a revised plan. Can you put a revision date on it, just so it doesn't get confusing?
It actually has a totally new date.
let me scratch this out of here so I don't do that again. All right, so you don't know what the size of the deck is, Mike? Fill in a
where-
band and
I could
remove an
scale it.
existing deck, remove a different deck and balcony, rebuild within the same footprint.
It doesn't have a new date, so I need a revised plan with a revision date, Mike.
Okay.
February 20, February 20.
This must be the deck, huh? So that time built on. Rebuild in this April.
So I'm gonna have to share these. Please bear with us, we're just looking at some,
Their opinion, staff's opinion about all the other stuff was that it's okay. This is the new February 20th.
thank you.
All right, now I got it, okay.
That's helpful. What's he saying?
This is the new system. That's protecting firewood, right?
That's, big deal, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think Mark's concern with that firewood thing was on the first February 20th plan, it was labeled as a shed, and that is absolutely not a shed, it's just kind of a thing. So Mr. Borselli updated the plan to call it some sort of firewood canopy structure,
Gotcha.
was one of the issues.
You see that? Yes, Mary.
My reaction when I heard the recommendation was pretty much the same as Mr. Borselli's.
It's fine.
I was very surprised to hear a recommendation to just go and remove a dock
Okay,
under an RDA.
that's fine. Mark
Seems
went
to me
out
it would be part of an NOI decision or else an enforcement action, but
there. Okay. We'll do it under an EO then.
Well, I'm gonna withdraw my motion then, because we have to redo it.
So then you want to do a recommendation from -2 under the bylaw and -3 under the state where your resource area boundary is not confirmed on the
Oh.
request project?
I'll make that
That's
motion.
fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be Mary's motion, Michael's second.
And, Mr. Chairman, just so you know, I've advised them to pursue what they need to do for the dock.
Oh, they're going to. It's already engaged. You know,
Just
there's
let you
no
know.
turning back. Pandora's box is open, and we'll have that conversation on another day.
Mike, can you shoot me a revised plan with a date
Yep.
on that? Just so it doesn't get confusing, because we have the, what's all this? Okay.
So, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other comments or discussion on the board? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, moving along, we're at continued requests for a hearing under a notice of intent.
That's all these things.
All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First this evening is Lot 159 and Lot 160, Sea Pit Road, Wacoit, Mass., for permission to reconstruct 160 linear feet of bulkhead seawall with sheet piling driven in directly in front of the existing wood wall, including the placement of wood whale beams at the top of the wall, install a 3-inch by 12-inch wall cap, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening.
See if I can get this on. Hi, good evening. I'm Jeff Ryther with BSS Design, representing the Gorans this evening. The last time we heard the project, we were looking to reconstruct the bulkhead from wood to a vinyl installation. The section AA has been revised, and I can go over that in a minute, but the bulkhead project is 160 feet with a return here at the end and a small angled return here to butt into the 3-foot contour. Out there existing is horizontal boards being propped up by old pilings, and it's starting to lean a little bit forward. There is some erosion in behind. The last time I was here, I was looking to put the bulkhead, the new bulkhead, in front of the old, but I was asked to reconsider that design and put the bulkhead in behind. So it turns out that that's not a bad idea. It seems to work out pretty good. We'll use the toe of the existing bulkhead as a guide. Again, I mentioned that the boards are horizontally installed on posts, so we're going to look to peel those upper boards off to give us room to build this upper whale and cap. So I think that's pretty ideal. So we won't lose the sediment in behind by taking that board off. Plus there is already erosion and piping that's occurred, so some of the sediment has already gone down and has left this gap, sort of rooted gap, that we're going to drive into with the new vinyl sheet pile. And once that's installed, we'll pull the rest of it off and clean up anything that falls into the resource areas. Also mentioned the last time was this dumping that occurred on the coastal bank. And something I had mentioned briefly, that the Gorans were the new owners, but what I didn't say is they've been owners for only a few months. So they inherited this dumping here, and they did send in a letter saying, sorry about the dumping, but hey, we didn't do it, but we'll be glad to take care of it. So there's a note here that describes the area. It's about 22 this way by 32 this direction. That's plus or minus. There is dumping of, there's some limbs on one side, there's more leaves on another side, but nonetheless, once they pull it out, they'll have to decide what area needs the most, restoration. And so we've called out some native shrubs and grasses to match the rest of the bank here. Revision date here is March 30th. Basically has a little synopsis of what I've done, but it primarily is, bringing that wall in behind the existing. Now, also, I was asked to provide a construction methodology, so I did, bullet the major points and how it's going to be done. And with that, I'll take your questions.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Any, all set, Jen?
Yes.
Mike?
And this is all done from the land side, the driving in.
No, that's not the case, because we need to, some of the work will be certainly done from behind, but there'll be a small marine barge with an excavator on it, a small machine with a vibratory device mounted to the arm. So these sheet piles are actually, they're driven by vibration. And it's kind of just shake them right down into the ground. It's all sand here, so they should go in pretty plumb.
So this will be done with the tide?
Yeah, high tide, yes.
That seems fine to me.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a very sandy bottom there, so.
it is.
Russ?
No, thanks, Jeff. I think there's a reasonable compromise. I think this works out well. Thanks. I'm all set.
Mary?
I agree. Judging by the way you described the changes, you're happy with them, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think it'll work fine.
It's good.
I did meet the marine contractor down there. We kind of went back and forth from one end to the other. A couple of tricky spots.
They're gonna be having,
We do have to take away some plankings from the dock that butts into it, so, but that's just, you know, something we have to do.
Yep, that's what you gotta do. They're gonna have an eco hydraulic oil in the machine.
Well, I guess that could be specified. I didn't,
That's gonna be,
I mean, that's usually in your standard
yeah, I'm just letting you
conditions
be
for
aware of
docks
this.
and bulkheads and things, so.
When the next discussion you have with your contractor, we'll know that that's gonna be one of the,
This is the hydraulic fluid we're talking about.
right,
Yep.
yeah, I don't want any drippy of the bad stuff,
All right, I want that.
okay? All right, do we have enough information?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
That'd be Russell's motion, Mary's second. Is there in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you.
Next is a request to amend the existing order of conditions, 365 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the existing order of conditions to add 140 square feet expansion of the approved deck. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Prepared this plan for the Salmon family at 365 Shorewood Drive. The house is fairly old. There are two additions that were approved under an order of conditions issued in January of 2014. And at that time, up until July of 2014, the velocity zone was very close to the house. And actually, the 25-foot buffer, the 25-foot Falmouth velocity zone ran about through where I showed the B zone here. So that's why that deck was originally built in the configuration that it is now, because there was a velocity zone through there, and so they were staying out of the velocity zone with the deck. On the new flood maps, the velocity zone moved seaward out to here, and the 25-foot velocity zone is there. So that's no longer consideration, the 200 square feet of anything in a velocity zone. The entire site and the house is in the A zone, AE elevation 12. And the house is just at that elevation, you know, it's pre-existing, the house. The most landward B zone, that's the B zone, the 100-foot B zone to the coastal bank. There's a coastal bank in this area, and if you walk out here, there's a little mound that the path goes over. There's a coastal bank there, and has a 50-foot buffer zone, the A zone, which I've shown as the A, and then the next 50 feet is the B zone. So the total expansion of the deck is 140 square feet. 63 square feet of that is in the B zone. Under your regulations, basically if the A zone is fully vegetated, then there's actually no mitigation planting required. So I haven't shown any on here. In the immediate vicinity of the house, in where the B zone where planting would be allowed, in the B zone or further seaward, there's very little room to put mitigation planting that's more than 10 feet from the house anyway, and it's not required. So I haven't shown it on here. That's my explanation of the project. I'll take your comments.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Tom, was that alcohol removed as it was required to be prior to them starting construction on this?
What was it?
The alcohol that was in the salt marsh that was identified at the original hearing, was it removed prior to them starting this project?
You know, I do not know.
So and I honestly did not notice, didn't look for the alcohol when I went out there. If I go out there tomorrow and find the alcohol, what am I supposed to do if they've already started construction? Stop construction?
That's up to you, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know,
I think the instructions in the last order were the out-haul were to be removed prior to starting construction, and your clients were not to prune any more of the buffer that they had pruned to a height of 3 feet.
correct.
Okay?
And that, I had forgotten about the out-haul condition, but I knew about the pruning condition.
Okay. I have no other questions or concerns.
Surprised it's still there.
What's still there?
Surprise, it's still
It's
there.
still there,
So
okay.
then why
The,
should
uh,
we approve an amendment
no.
when the applicant hasn't?
I meant the order.
Oh,
I meant-
okay.
I meant the
I
note.
thought you meant the
The
out-haul,
alcohol
like,
hopefully is not there, but the condition.
Condition in the order, oh yeah, it's still there. That's why we're amending the order and not doing an RDA or something.
Surprise, the term out-haul out first is still there.
Right.
You know,
And I don't know if it's, I didn't check.
I don't
that.
either, because I didn't go out. But who knows, if I go out tomorrow and see it,
the amendment's
this
in
is-
trouble.
it's been a day of this.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, no reflection on this project, other than my comment that I just made. Mike,
No question.
Russ,
Questions?
Mary.
No questions, and I didn't have any problem with what was being proposed here, but I'm not sure what we're gonna do with this
No,
other
that's just-
situation.
You know, it was, on face, it was like, hooray, you know, we're gonna be good. Hey, wait a minute, well, hey, give me my sprinkles on the ice cream cone because I've been a good boy, and no, you're cutting line. No. This is how this day has been, I swear to God. It's a little thing in all reality, and it should have been, if it's not pulled. Why do you guys do this to us? Why do you make it uncomfortable? You know, it's, you know,
It's not Tom.
well, no, it's the engineer that, you know, goes to the, I'm venting on you, Tom, because you know, you're making this presentation to me. You know, and that just, this is crap.
We may not have a problem.
We may not, but we don't
It
know.
may be, it's
know,
okay.
it's just like, hey.
We'll address it one way or another after.
After we give an amendment? After we give them,
During deliberation.
Right. I
Alright.
mean,
Very
we're
deliberate.
gonna still have time to check this, and
I know,
if
I
it
just want
happens
them
to
to,
still be there, maybe it'll get denied, maybe it will, you know.
just want somebody to appreciate the frustration.
Nope.
If, oh yeah,
I mean,
if-
the project is pretty straightforward, Tom. Just,
If you'd like to ask for anything.
No, I don't think it's.
no, I mean, the project's pretty straightforward. They can address it in deliberations
if
and,
you make sure it's removed, definitely make sure it's removed before deliberation and vote.
oh,
But
I
see,
mean, I don't know if it's there or not.
no, you know what, and I
You can't-
don't either. But I'm just saying that, you know, we'll go out and check, and if it's there, you know, it's not gonna bode well to deliberations. If it's out, great.
but see, if we do this, now, here's where I'm coming from it. We vote to close this and take it under advisement.
Yeah,
I can't know if that thing came out or not.
yes, you can.
No, I can't, because it's no longer part of this, it's no longer part of the hearing, we're closed. No more information comes in or out.
And we still have, rights to go on the property then, or is that done?
No,
the minute we
you have an
close it?
open order of conditions, and this board has more than once kept a record open to see if something has been there or not.
Okay, if
and
we can
I
have a caveat like
absolutely
that,
would
because if we
recommend
close
that.
it, it's closed.
No, I say you
We
can
do
leave
it
the
all the
record.
time for revised plans.
And I
Yeah.
just wanna be real, okay?
You
If
do
that's what
you
this-
do for revised plans, why can't you do it to check a specific order on yours? It's still part of the order of conditions.
I would entertain a motion like that.
Staff will go out tomorrow morning to 365 Shorewood Drive and double check
Okay.
Move to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
with the information on
second
whether
that.
that alcohol is out or
But
not.
we're just closing the
Yeah.
hearing.
In the case that it's not out, you go out there at 8 o'clock and find that it's there, is it still open for information that I can tell you by Friday that it's gone? I I mean, that if I have them remove it, say later on Thursday or Friday, would it still be open for that
See,
information?
and that's where my concern was.
Yeah.
Just so that, I can appreciate, when we ask for information to be brought in, we know what the information we are gonna accept. All right? And that's why this is just rubbing me a little bit. I wanna be consistent on that. All right? That's the rub that I get out of this. That's the wonderful of tonight.
Well, what's the only other option, to continue it?
Yeah.
But can that be some of the information that it's held open for, the record is held open for?
You're not, going to your office and printing up and supplying us with something that we specifically said, okay? A revised plan that says such and such and such and such,
Right.
and bringing it back.
Can we request a plan that shows a haul off that's not there?
This thing's taken way too much of my energy and way too much of my time. I wish I had not,
Mr. Chairman, staff will go out tomorrow, and if it's there, we will advise.
if it's there, why don't we just do an enforcement order on it then?
No,
Just keep
because
it clean.
if it's there, staff will go out, we'll check and see if it's there. It's an open order of conditions. You want the information. I'll address that through Tom, and by the time you come to deliberate this project, I will have
The information,
the information for you.
one way or the other.
Yep, one way or the other.
It's like 3 pieces of information we can have. I'm satisfied with that.
Yep,
Okay.
I think that's fair
comfortable with
enough.
that?
I'm comfortable with that. There's
Well,
only 3 answers, what the heck?
Just
Okay.
to state the obvious, that assumes that if it gets corrected, it's okay with us that it wasn't done the way we asked for.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
So,
I think
it'd
that's
be
just
easier to
the-
get that information that it's been removed now than to do an
Yeah,
enforcement
no,
order
I'm not,
later.
I'm just saying as a parliamentary thing.
Better to get
No,
forgiveness.
absolutely.
Better to ask forgiveness than get permission. Anyhow, so I would entertain a motion.
I have a motion to
And
close
does
the
it-
hearing.
And does that cover us as
Yeah.
far as, then that's fantastic. Is there, you have a motion on the table? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this project? No second?
I second it.
That would be Russell's second. And again, is there anyone in the audience that would like to talk about this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, I think.
I think it
Down
might.
there.
Oh, and this is another jackpot.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, Tom,
We're gonna
it's
skip,
okay.
we're gonna skip right over this?
Unfortunately, we do not have a quorum for the request for extension, so we will need to continue that
Okay.
until April 20, what's our next hearing? 22nd. Although the application does expire on this April 16th, I will, there was no way to know we weren't going to have a quorum tonight for this. So I will work through town council and we'll resolve that. Attempt to resolve it administratively.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Move to continue the hearing on this request for extension till April 22nd.
Unless I can resolve it administratively.
Okay.
You don't have enough to vote on that, because I can't vote on this.
No, I understand that.
I can't even,
Oh, right, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Sorry.
It is being what he does.
And
There's
there's no
no motion.
so, moving on the
Quorum
agenda,
Lovely.
we're gonna vote orders of conditions.
We have quorums for these.
Excellent. I'm grateful for that. The first is 156 Grand Ave.
This was the vinyl sheet piling behind the existing revetment. The only special conditions you had was to follow the methodology exactly as written in Holmes and McGrath, notice of intent for control of the excavated material and to cover and reinforce the existing cesspool, which I believe is within or near the construction access.
Correct. That's what I had.
Cover and reinforce the existing cesspool.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
Okay, that'd be Russell's motion. Mary's second. Any further discussion on the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 26 Drift Road.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the raise of the existing garage, the rebuild of a single-family home within the DCPC, and the upgrade of the septic system on a separate lot. Some of the issues surrounding this are the project does encroach within the 200-foot buffer to the salt marsh within the DCPC that this board has the authority to require because it's that district of critical planning concern. It does not meet 310.033C, which is the siting of that septic system near a dune. The board needs to overcome the presumption of significance with the relation to the septic system. And they do not meet the 15-foot building setback that's also required under the DCPC. Some of the benefits are that they are removing those three, I believe, cesspools and installing the ruck system. But again, that's on another lot across the street from this lot. So I guess if you're looking for an improvement on lot 2, how are you going to weigh improvement? Are you looking at them lot 1 and lot 2 in their entirety, or as two separate lots?
Yeah, well, it's one and a line.
Yeah. One notice of intent, 2 lots.
Yeah. I find this, ma'am,
Please.
I find this maybe the hardest for me to arrive at a decision on that I've seen. Setting aside the stated reasons for the project, I'm not unsympathetic to them, but I don't really consider them to be something that's, we should be, that the commission should necessarily give a lot of weight to. But I have a lot of trouble with the idea of approving a whole new dwelling in the DCPC that has, that doesn't meet several conditions. I understand we have the ability to do that, and I also think that the septic upgrade is, it's a significant improvement as far as the septic goes. But I went back there today. I drove all the way down Drift Road. It's, it's a pretty stable, long-established situation. I also recall during the hearing, I said that I was worried that having a new dwelling there on that side was going to, just promote a lot more activity around the marsh there. And my recollection is that Mr. Wall's reply was, well, you can't get through that brambly stuff anyway. But there's a very well-worn path to the salt marsh, and it's planned to stay. And I think that with, families renting and coming maybe every week or for a month at a time, that it's going to, that area is going to see a lot more activity than it's used to, even though, you know, they're going to be offered the ability to go over to the Bayside. I imagine they want to do both. And I think that, you know, it is important to think about the cumulative impacts in a place like this. And part of the way I feel about the cumulative impact is not just ecologically, but this is setting a precedent if we approve this. And my own inclination is to, you know, we're going to be hard to deny something in the future if we approve this. All that said, I still don't know, you know, which way I'm going to end up going on this. But those are the things I'm weighing.
Thank you. Mike?
The issue of most concern is there is more traffic, to me, there's two, there's more traffic. It's been addressed in that you have the parking lot and the driveway and the new area and so on. I think that those issues have been concerned. The second large one is the precedents that Mary talked about. We set up a buffer specifically for that, and I don't like just changing it because it's time to change it. With that said, the way the area is used, the existing structure, the fact that if something isn't done, that structure is going to end up in our wetlands anyway. It's falling apart. We have with its current use, I don't see anybody upgrading it. So that we're getting that, although larger in size, I think there's a benefit to the area by having that structure upgraded, albeit larger. And I think we can, because of the conditions and the way they're going forward, we can say enough into the record to show why we gave the positive vote within that, and to get inside that zone. And I think we can do that, or I can do that as an individual member.
Russ?
I'd be honest with you,
One second.
I kind of agree with Mary. And Mike, this thing is 3 times larger than that garage structure.
If you, it is 3 times, it's maybe, look at the area, look where it is, look at the area that's coming back, with all the invasives that are coming through, it's sitting near the side of the area. If you go up and down that road, there are whole sections where I'd be right on board with you. I wouldn't bat an eyelash, but I'm
Mike is,
there. And the second issue that comes into this, the applicant did everything they could. They came before us, they had a whole area that, and we were absolutely right to say no. We made that decision, this commission made that decision the last time. They listened. The applicant absolutely listened as best as he could and came back and said, this is what we can do to improve it. Now, I wasn't here for the first one, but I darn well wouldn't have been in favor of it. But when somebody listens to all the concerns and does the best they can with what they got, it weighs heavily in my vote.
I will concur entirely about the applicant and what they put forward. I don't fault them at all. But in comparing the structure comparing what we have there now with the proposed plan, I don't necessarily disagree with you about one structure versus the other. The problem I'm having is that the new structure represents potentially a great deal of human activity going on there versus none now.
And for that,
I wouldn't necessarily none.
Well,
Because-
I mean,
because
there
they
are
have-
cars parking there, but.
Cars, boats, last summer, on occasion, going up and down there, and it does get, like everywhere, every little nook and cranny that's out there gets used. Somebody's parking on it, somebody's got a trailer on it, somebody's got a boat laying on it. There's bikes here and there. The human activity, as far as going in the salt marsh, they're gonna go down there a few times, and then they're gonna go to the beach. You know, they're gonna lose interest in this, to a point, you know, it's not,
Kids
Yeah.
love to explore.
They're also going to be running, you know,
one moment.
showers and laundries and toilets.
And that is addressed with the septic. And that is I don't think there's a whole lot of those out there, to be
No,
honest with
no,
you.
that is a big,
And,
big thing, I agree.
you know, yes, Jen?
Mr. Chairman, you're making the assumption that people are gonna go to the beach if the property is continued to be rented by the same family that currently owns it. What if it's sold?
Yeah, right, I think it's
What if
likely to
it's
be sold.
So you have to look at that. I mean, you can't just look at what they're proposing. How many times has this board said, oh, we're gonna use this as a retirement home, and staff goes down 2 weeks later after you issue an order, and there's a for sale sign slapped on the property. You can't go on the assumption that this property is always gonna be under the control of the current applicant.
Right.
And
Also, I don't know how you're gonna get around the fact that that deck is only 2 feet off of that proposed mulch surface runoff barrier. So, you know, if somebody has to access the back of that property, there is a reason why the board likes to see mitigation plantings 10 feet off. Well, what about the stairs and the foundation itself? So now you're looking at, it still doesn't meet the regulations of 15 feet from your limit of work. Or from, I mean, I'm going off this mulch barrier because you're not supposed to be stepping on that anyway. So that might as well be their limit of work.
What's the elevation on the deck?
the deck is gonna be at 22.
Yeah. But your regulations in the DCPC, which you know, cannot be waived, say it has to have a building setback of 15 feet. That said, I do have, I mean, although the upgrade of the septic system, it is definitely an upgrade, and they're somehow connecting this property to it, you know, the existing cesspools are within the dune. This thing is gonna be within 100 feet of the dune, and it's within 2 feet of the dune. I mean, it is an improvement, but does that outweigh the impacts that that buffer is gonna take for the marsh? And I think that's how you need to look at it. You know, the increased activity, the activity that's there now, and you can't always say that the path or the activity isn't gonna be increased. You have boats there now, you have cars there now.
Mhm.
Where are those boats and cars gonna go when there's a structure there
Underneath.
underneath? Okay.
Yeah, that's like every
Okay,
other
yeah.
structure that ever gets raised, things get put underneath. You know, and they have a designated part for the car, but all the rest of it, you know, there's gonna be all the same typical happy crap that,
Underneath the structure,
yeah,
Yeah, it's a parking beneath.
a garage under slab.
Yep.
Okay, but that garage is just that little bit, right?
right.
So what about the rest of that? Is that basement?
No,
That's a,
that's open piling. That's my understanding.
no, that wasn't mine.
That's not,
It's in an A zone, it's not in a velocity zone. They don't show that open piling. Oh, that has a zone V, A, E. Where's my V zone?
Cross section. What do you got for
Yeah, the
First
V zone
floor
is over
elevation.
here.
it's 22.
Up in the air.
Okay, so what's our ground elevation then? here?
Slab at 11.3. It's 11 right
11.3,
there.
so it's 11.2, 4. Well, there's plenty of room.
So you're saying that this thing is on open pilings? That's your understanding?
Well, that's it says proposed dwelling first floor elevation,
22.
22. That's 11 feet taller than the slab of the garage.
Existing garage to be demolished,
Okay.
garage on the slab, so that's just taking the same spot.
Yep.
Construction notes. Let's see.
Yes.
One other thing, when I went back there today, I walked down this path, and somewhere around in here, I noticed that the thick brambly brush, I'm not sure what it is, on the right side of the path, so under, in front of where the proposed dwelling would be, has been, it looked like it was cut to create a new start of it. It looked like they were starting to create a new path there or something. So the brush was cut and it seemed kind of walked on. More than once. And I'm not sure, it looked somewhat recent to me.
I think there was an option too. I do worry about opening the can of worms here
This
too,
isn't
Mr.
on
Chairman.
pilings. That first floor flood elevation's at 22 to comply with the building code, correct? This thing's not on pilings, Mr. Chairman. That's why they're showing that little area under the garage. I don't believe this is on pilings.
The area is the existing garage.
Because you were getting stuck on the garage and where you're gonna park the cars last time, and instead of saying parking underneath, they kept saying parking in the garage, put one car in, put one car behind it.
Right.
This is not on pilings.
So this whole thing is in the flood.
Yeah, and the first floor elevation is raised to meet the building code. Maybe even a little higher because it says AE elevation 18.
And it's
That's
not
in the AE
velocity.
zone. Where is the,
It's not in the velocity.
no, it's not, the velocity zone's over here.
Construction means
Yeah. Do we need a motion?
I'd entertain anything right now.
Oh, we need a positive motion.
That would be correct.
I make a motion to accept the project as proposed.
Second.
That'd be Mike's motion, Mary's second. Is there any further deliberation about this project with the information that we have? Ready for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion doesn't carry. We will have to make
What's our next one?
the findings for that are all what we've been discussed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next is 104 Waterside Trail
Drive, I
Drive.
believe.
Drive.
This is one that's
Thank you.
in the velocity zone. It's a vacant lot. They're proposing a single-family home on open pilings and to replant the currently disturbed area on the lot. This one does not meet the regulation in your land subject to coastal storm flowage regs, which states any change in vegetative cover.
Okay, I know where we are.
Let me see if I can make it see.
One with a lawn ornament Jeep.
A proposed project within the velocity zone shall not destroy or otherwise impair the function or any portion of said landform, or shall not have an adverse effect on adjacent wetland resource areas, activities in their ancillary uses in the velocity zone which results in alteration to vegetative cover. You know, interruptions of sediment, supply of sediment to wetland resources and changes in form of a dune or a beach will have an adverse effect on said landform's ability to provide storm damage prevention and flood control and therefore prohibited. These activities include but are not limited to new structures including buildings, sheds, garages, additions, substantial improvements to existing structures, foundations other than open pilings or columns, new or proposed expansions of roads, new proposed expansion of coastal engineering structures, and new septic systems. The septic system is outside the velocity zone. The house is partially in the velocity zone, and they are proposing to replant the disturbed area. That's this project in a
Replant,
nutshell.
I'm sorry, what?
They're proposing to replant the disturbed area that's closer to the coastal way.
Somebody's done.
Sure, absolutely.
That planting area along the coast where that is now
Grass,
grass, well,
stuff.
that's calm.
Yeah.
It's somewhere between grass and beach.
Yeah.
Um,
Cape Cod lawn, as Courtney likes to call it. More dirt than grass.
More dirt than grass, that's fair. Getting that improved and making sure that that is understood all the way back. When I look at the house next door, I can see this coming back to us sometime in the future with a different look. Wouldn't surprise me. So this has to stand very much as its own with the understanding that the improvements on this are forever.
And when you say improvements on this are forever, are you talking about
The planting.
The plantings? How about the open pilings? And not have breakaway panels anytime in the future?
I can go, yes, you know,
Well, that's the way it was proposed anyway. Barbara said there wouldn't be any.
Correct, but Mike just
Right.
said he sees it coming back to you in a different form, so.
Well,
I'm not saying it
then
will.
you take it on the merit of the next, if somebody
as
comes
long
back with it.
as long
you take
as
it on the
we
merit.
tie in that planting,
Yeah.
that's the benefit. Here
No,
we
I
are.
got it,
Right.
you know.
But if somebody comes back with it, they come back with it. We
Okay.
take it on those merits.
Okay.
Can't say in the future we won't allow it. I don't disagree. I don't have a problem with this one.
Okay.
Mm.
Improved planting area though.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was the
okay.
Oh,
biggest.
yeah, no, it was
No.
proposed and it's there, but I'm just making, that is the pet, there is,
Ongoing
With
with
the- the resource is being significantly improved
Yep,
with all that planting. And for
yep,
that, there's a benefit, and here we are.
Mhm.
That's part of the deal here.
significantly improved, got it. Okay,
If there's any further discussion, or I could entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
That's Russell's motion, Mary's second. Any further discussion on the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is
That's my last one.
368 Central Ave. And I got the same note on this as I did on another one. Protect the septic system.
Yeah, that was protect the septic system,
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with this one either.
Something
It was
about-
a good one.
scratchy.
Where My memory is a whole thing.
Mr. Chairman, give me 1 second.
Big deal.
Yeah. For Central Ave, where we needed to have this is the conservation or the
Yeah,
300
that's why I'm saying, Hank, give me 1 second
Yep.
to
300
catch
community.
up.
There was-
It's the
Oh,
300
yeah.
committee, you wanted them to protect the
It's closer a lot.
300 committee's land.
Yeah, the existing houses here.
Existing, yeah, see where the existing house is, right on the lot. In fact, you mentioned that.
That's that, okay, hang on. Hold up.
I had the concern about the driveway and if you don't,
Yeah, you want to
everybody-
make sure you really identify where the 300
Yeah.
committee's land
Some
is.
markers,
This is also
demarcate
Yeah.
it somehow.
Great Barber.
I mean, as far as the
Yes.
setbacks go, everything, it's fine. It's
Like
just
Great
trying to
Barber.
protect that open space that's,
I think it's a
think
good
it's
project, I
okay.
don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it.
Get the house off the property line.
Yeah.
yeah, I just noticed that, I'm like, wow, they're moving it back.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah,
Mike
I-
mentioned that
I
last time out.
Couldn't believe it when I went there. It's like
I mean, there's no
8
issues with
inches
the
from the property
setback.
line.
It's just making sure that the people on the ground know where the
Well, we can
300
condition it that
committee's land
it be
is.
marked,
Yeah, that's
something
right.
stronger than just,
Yeah, it was something that
Gray
I could
space.
just see, the drywall trucks backing in and,
Right.
they're snapping branches and,
But
the
that's
other
why
guy's going out
electrified
for
fence.
coffee. Yeah, I know. it's
You
just
said, scratch.
Scratchy
Usually
stuff,
barriers.
Yeah.
like
We
a
don't
snow
want those.
fence.
The excavator coming in,
Yeah.
How would you
fixing
want
it
a
on the
chain
way
link?
out.
Pardon?
On a chain link?
That-
Or is that a little too scratchy?
I don't know. It's,
I mean, it's outside of your, more or less jurisdiction, but I mean, I would feel comfortable having them line that driveway with orange construction fence.
Well, yeah,
Give them
just-
a
Yeah.
visual, and also give the 300 committee a way to say, okay, this is where they stay, and if the orange construction fencing is kind of like
well,
smushed.
it is our purview because we're granting a permit for the activities therein.
Yes,
The limit of
correct.
work comes up there and, I think that's, well, if they can't deal with
You want snow fencing or orange construction fencing or both?
construction
Yeah.
fencing, that's.
construction now.
Orange
fence,
construction,
yeah.
yeah. And that's just a visual, and that also gives other entities a nice visual on
Right.
what that access is and what the protected land is.
Maybe we could send a letter to the 300 committee and let them know.
And it's easy
No,
to
they've
see
already
if something's
reviewed it.
happening too.
Okay.
They've already reviewed it, it's in your file, they've already have certain
Yeah, but I mean,
conditions
just
and.
let them know that we're telling them that they should have
Yeah.
through the orange fencing, just
Okay, I will let the 300 committee know
so that,
that we're doing this in an attempt to assist.
yes.
Move to issue an approval order as discussed.
Second?
That'd be Mary's motion, Russell's second. Is there any further discussion on the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Can I steal an elastic from somebody?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
That'd be Russell's motion,
Another.
Mary's second.
No,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.